Hello, podcast world, fellow horticulturists, lovers of plants, gardeners, family, and friends. Welcome to Shrubby Buddies, the podcast, friends with woodies for garden goodies. I'm host Matt Guthrie.
And I'm host Tim Fleischer. Coming at you from Central Ohio, Zone 6B. We're just a couple of public horticulturists and certified arborists with experience in education, landscape design, gardening, retail, and wholesale.
So grab a drink, polish your pruners, dust off that kneeling pad, and let's get down to business. Hey, Shrubby Buddies, and welcome back to Season 2 of Shrubby Buddies podcast, the podcast about all things horticulture, gardening, landscaping, plants, all of that fun stuff. I am co-host Matt Guthrie, joined with old One Nip Tim Fleischer. How are you, Timmy?
I'm fantastic. Season 2.
Here we are.
Let's do it.
Season 2.
Yeah, I'm vibing.
Yeah, you are. You got that pink Maple Mafia hat on, little throwback to Asheville, North Carolina.
Absolutely.
You got your Shrubby Buddies staff shirt on.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just chilling. So what's new?
Well, we're in a new setting.
So if you guys are listeners of the podcast, we're in the Mercury room, just taking up the mercury fumes. And
Matt's done some remodeling, and he got all the mercury cleared out of this room from the spill that happened some years ago.
Yeah, probably a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Had the mercury spill. Well, we got all of that cleaned up. Hazmat crew, aka Matt Guthrie, myself is the hazmat crew. Came in, cleaned it all up. Got new flooring down. We got a new computer space in here, new shelves. We're working on getting a podcast table put together for this room so that we can do video podcasts this season, hopefully sooner rather than later. But yeah.
Video podcasts coming. We're very excited about that. I'm excited about this room. It's a nice little atmosphere. We got windows and a lot of good natural light. It's just very happy.
Yeah. That's what this was the room that we had talked about doing it the whole time until mercury spill. So here we are. We're not in my basement anymore, but other than that, yeah, Season 2, here we are. We're really, really excited about it. We hope that you are too. We've got a lot of great things to talk about this season. We've got some good guests that we're going to have on, probably some repeat guests also.
Some walkabouts. I think we'd like to really step up the walkabout game.
Yeah, we got some wireless mics, some really nice wireless microphones. So we're going to be able to do a more legitimate and not janky ass walkabouts. So maybe hitting up some gardens or arboretums, doing spring ephemeral walks coming up soon.
Wait for that.
Yeah, we really want to do one of those. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll find out Friday if we can work things out. We'll have a special guest for that, and we'll do a little spring ephemeral walkabout with him.
That's a good tease. I like that.
So what else is going on? It's been a long winter.
Yeah. I do want to remind listeners that the Ohio State Buckeyes are the reigning national champs in football.
Yeah, they are.
Maybe I'll just remind everybody each week.
Thank you. Thanks for the good reminder. Tim is still high on that.
Yeah, so exciting.
We got March Madness going on right now.
Hopefully your bracket's not busted.
Yeah, I didn't do a bracket this year.
No.
But hopefully yours isn't, and hopefully the listeners isn't.
Mine's, I'm not in first place, but it's not busted. So we'll see what happens the next few days.
That is all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. My phone's blowing up right now. My wrist keeps jingling off on some text messages. That threw me off a little bit. But yeah, so this week we want to talk about spring cleanups and stuff because it's that time of the year, people. So we're going to hit on that a little bit. Like I said, it's been a long winter. I'm ready to see green. Things are starting to green up.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to see green. I'm ready to see leaves. I'm ready to see flowers. I'm reset now. I'm ready for spring. I'm ready to get going.
But as far as horticulture and gardening goes, in Dublin where we work, we've got all our spring flowers planted in the pots around town. So those will be in for just under 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
They'll come out in early May and get switched out for the summer stuff. So that was nice to get that finished. I think everything looks gorgeous. And those are all plants that can take the cooler temps. So, we're going to see some upper 20s, and these plants will be just fine.
Well, we saw
We did.
mid-20s the day after we planted them, and they were fine.
And they did.
Why don't you tell the listeners what it is? What are some of the plants that we put in case they're wondering, like, what are these cool season plants that can take this cold?
So we did a lot of snapdragons. We did some osteospermums. I don't know the common name for osteospermum, but some osteospermums.
Uh-huh.
We did some lobelias, of course, pansies, and then some dianthus. So,
And violas, pansies.
Yeah, and violas.
Whatever. Yeah.
So, and all that stuff can take these cold temps. Now, if we get down into 15 degrees, we might have problems, but fingers crossed that that's not happening. Also, this past weekend, I got my some of my vegetables direct seeded in my garden. So I did 2 types of snap peas. I did 2 types of radishes. One of them was one we got at So True Seed in Asheville.
Asheville, yeah.
I did a purple skinned radish. I also planted that nebula carrot that you're excited about.
Yeah.
Check that one out. And what else did I get in? Oh, and then I'm going to get the onions in sometime this week.
Well, yeah, I have a whole trunk full of white, yellow, and red onion sets for you and Brenna, and I think you weren't getting potatoes. I got her some red Pontiac potato.
I got a worm in my potatoes last year.
Yeah, man.
And it ruined all my red potatoes, and I'm like, nah, F that. I'm not doing potatoes anymore. So what's nice about the onions is I can grow them outside of the confines of the garden because animals won't eat those.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice. It helps save some space on the interior for more tomatoes, more peppers.
I hate when I get the potato worm.
Oh,
it's the worst, isn't it?
I know you're joking, but I was out there with Amelia. We're digging them up, and they just had all these little holes in them and these little worms crawling out, and I was so defeated.
What the listeners don't understand about you is like, it's more than just like feeling defeated about these potatoes. It's probably almost feels like, man, I let Jer down because you and your dad used to grow potatoes.
Yeah, my dad's the most successful potato grower I know, and certainly let him down. So hopefully he's not too upset with me.
Yeah, and my dog's just barreled through the door here. I thought I had it tied off.
How didn't she get in?
Nissa just look, Prince and Cooper are afraid to do what she just did, but she's
Nissa, no barking.
Dude, she's been around the block, so yeah. So back to the potatoes. Jerry, you've always talked about the great potatoes he grows. So I can only imagine how.
Yeah, so I'm going to give those a break, maybe do some more research on this worm and how I can, either eradicate it or something like that. But yeah, I'm going to do tons of onions.
Good deal.
Yep.
Yeah, that's exciting stuff. So spring flowers are in the city of Dublin. For us, I've got in my garden, I've got tulips coming up. I've got daffodils coming up, getting ready to bloom. I've got and I know you're pissed about this, but because yours isn't doing it yet, but I've got pulsatilla or pasque flower.
Mm-hmm.
I've got it blooming in the front garden right now.
Which I had to talk you into getting in the first place because it was too small for you. You didn't like it.
Look, I am a big, bold, perennial guy for sure. But it's funny because the front of my border is not big and bold perennials. I mean, they're like, calamint and salvias and things like that. Because I didn't want stuff that was going to just block the front of the house. So you talked me into the pasque flower. I put, 4 or 5 of them in, scattered about, and they're flowering now. And I'm just like, I saw that yesterday and I was like, yes, this is perfect. This is the perfect flower. So
yeah, it's one I really look forward to because we've had a few woodies bloom already. We've had forsythia and witch hazel and protea, but it's one of those first cultivated perennials to bloom. And so I always look forward to the pulsatilla.
Yeah. And everything else is starting to green up. I know, my calamint's coming up, my salvia's allium, it's all coming up. But we're going to dive into, like I said, this week's episode is going to be all about spring cleanup because it's that time of the year. It's time to start to get out and taking a look at some of these things we're talking about and getting, just some of your perennials cleaned up for the spring and getting your leaves out of your garden and all of that. So So you want to dive into this week's topic?
Let's do it.
All right. So you want me to start, or you want to start?
Well, I'll start by just mentioning the little argument that's going on in the horticulture gardening world right now, and that's when to start cutting back your garden, because it is a hot button topic, kind of like the idea of whether you should have mowed turf grass or not. And I don't know that there's necessarily a right or wrong answer to this, but the Save the Bees faction says you shouldn't cut back your gardens till here in Ohio till early May. So some of the indicators you're looking for are the apple trees are done blooming, or you've been mowing the grass already, or you've planted your tomatoes outside. I respect that, and if that's the course you'd like to take, then that's your prerogative. I can't wait that long. I know you can't either, Matt.
Nope.
I just can't wait that long. I need to get things cleaned up and see what's starting to come up. I need to reveal some things so I know where I need to cull seedlings, and I just can't. So, okay if you want to, but if you want to cut back now, it's fine.
Yeah, I think if you're taking a very naturalistic approach to it all and having that like true native, naturalistic type garden where none of that stuff matters other than I'm doing this specifically for the pollinators and the wildlife and stuff and for the environment, that's great. I mean, I'm all for that. Don't get me wrong, but like I also love the ornamental aspect of it. So I do have a ton of native plants in my garden, but not all natives. And for me, it's several things. It's like you talked about. It's culling out weeds, or like maybe allium that's kind of moved about in the garden, or it's the pulsatilla.
If I didn't cut back my garden, those pulsatilla blooms that we were just talking about, I would never see them because they wouldn't make it up through
the leaves and all
everything that's in there. So
yeah.
So the risk I take.
The pulsatilla, some of the bulbs even,
Mm-hmm.
it would just struggle. So for me, for you, it's kind of that side of it. Like we can't wait for that reason. For me, there's like multiple reasons. Like it's not just the not being able to wait, but it's for those reasons, but it's also the like for my own mental health. Like I just need to get out. I need to be on my hands and my knees in the garden, like doing something, hands in the dirt. And then also like for our jobs, we just have way too much stuff. We can't sit around and wait until like mid-April to get this stuff done,
or early May.
Like it just doesn't work for us. We have 65 parks that we take care of and all of the landscapes within those parks. So yeah, so like logistically speaking, it just doesn't work for us.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a small native garden and that's all you're concerned about, great, do it that way.
Well
wait.
said.
Yeah, wait. And then when, wait until the pollinators are done hatching or whatever it is that they do, and then clean up your gardens. But, it's just not in our cards. So
precisely.
yeah.
Nice.
What else did you want to talk about? So there's a lot of different things.
Cutback methods.
Yeah. So one method that we utilize, because it is very time saving, is using a mower, whether that be a riding mower or a push mower. This year I was using like a combination of push mower, riding mower, also electric pruning shears or gas powered pruning shears, like head shears. But I mean, literally just like keeping the deck up high and mowing it. If you're using a riding mower and you're cutting back big areas, we have like a bagger on ours. Just make sure not to take sharp turns in the flower beds before you get in there and cut them back, though. Also check for like any kind of bulbs or anything that may be in there that you don't want to run over. Don't run over woody plants. But, push mowers are nice because they're a little bit less invasive than using like a full-on riding mower. But then you can do the tried and true method of just like pruning shears or hand pruners or hand shears, like the long bladed, like Edward Scissorhand looking things, and you can use those. I know some of the gardeners use like actual scythes where they go in and like an old school scythe, like the Grim Reaper would use. So those are some different methods that we use. You can bag it, you can mulch it right back into the ground and leave it lay. I mean, it's it's an organic compost that's just going to decompose and be good for your soil. If you like a tidier look, you can rake it up, blow it out, whatever you need to do to get that material out of there. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm a huge fan of like the walk behind mower if you've got a slightly bigger space, because I'll put the bag on and it'll take up the leaves and it'll take everything up, and you dump the bag here and there. You gotta go straight in and then straight back out, because you don't want to still make those sharp turns with those wheels. And you also have to, this method wouldn't work if you're waiting till May, because your perennials are going to be so high. You're going to be chopping them off. So you need to be cognizant of your perennials being lower than the blade. And like Matt said, woodies, maybe you've got some newly planted woody species in there where it just looks like a perennial, but then you're cutting those off and setting those back. So you just need to be a little more careful when you're using a mower.
Yeah, but if you have like just a straight up perennial bed and you are willing to cut back a little early, like we love the push mower method. It's so much quicker. It's so much easier on your back than bending over with pruning shears and taking care of all of that. But if you have time and it's therapeutic to get out in the garden and you don't have a huge area to take care of, by all means, use your hand pruners or some gas-powered pruning shears and get out there and get after it. So, yeah. Speaking of cutting stuff back, perennials and things, and you spoke on woodies. So, this time of the year when you're cutting stuff back and you go to prune your woodies or your shrubs, just taking a minute to think about what shrubs you have, how they need to be pruned, if they need to be pruned. Some stuff, remember, is going to flower on those flower buds that were set last fall. So just being aware of that, like your lilacs and your oak leaf hydrangeas and things like that, don't touch those right now. But most of your other shrubs now would be good. I don't know if you want to hit on kind of some of the pruning methods of pruning those back.
Well, I will say that one of my big pet peeves in the garden is seeing like these big box landscaping companies come through residential neighborhoods and just shear things off with shears, woodies specifically.
Yeah.
There's a very small time when that's reasonable, and that's if you've got like a proper English garden and you're trimming your boxwoods into boxes or something. Other than that, you should not be just running shears across your woody plants.
Yeah.
And you see it all the time in these neighborhoods where people hire landscapers and they just run through there and do that, and it's not good for the plant. It's not how the plant's supposed to grow. And I can't stand it. So you need to be in your woodies cutting things back selectively. So taking your pruners and cutting just above buds. That way, if you cut several inches above a bud but below another bud, you're just going to have dead sticks sticking out
like
of your...
a 3-inch long dead
twig. You need to be cutting right above the bud, because that bud's going to open up soon and it's going to send out new growth. So, it all depends on what you're pruning, how you're going to do it. But like Matt mentioned, you need to be careful not to be pruning your stuff that's going to be blooming on old wood, your early stuff, like your lilacs, like some of your viburnums, like your oak leaf hydrangea. Leave those be till after they're done blooming. So, but if it's anything that blooms on new wood, so the spring growth hasn't started on it, go for it.
Yeah.
Prune it back.
And while you're in there with your pruners, just taking a moment to cut out maybe some of the dead wood canes that are in there, like some old stemmy wood that's either dead or is on its way out. Taking the time to get that stuff cleaned up out of there is going to promote new, healthier growth on the shrub. And then also just kind of looking at the overall plant, is it super, super dense? Maybe you need to make some thinning cuts. You need to go out and cut back some crossing branches and things like that, and to thin it out a little bit. Like 99% of the shrubs are going to respond perfectly fine to like really pruning hard on them. So,
and a lot of shrubs are pruned the same way, but there's a lot of specialty stuff. So if you have any questions, reach out to us or visit like a .org or a .gov or a .edu, your local extension, to see how specific things should be pruned. Like, for instance, roses, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a big rose guy. I know you're not either, but they do exist. People do love them. They're in the gardens. That's a whole different ball game when it comes to pruning. So make sure you're pruning your specific shrubs how they need to be pruned.
And your wife last year, she did an excellent video through Columbus Metro Parks and Enniswood Metro Gardens or was it on Facebook that video was out? Was that last year or the year before?
I think it was last year.
She did a really good video on, it's like this time of the year, like, hey, here's your roses. This is how you get out. And this is how I prune them, for the best success. So I don't know if you're on Facebook, maybe take a dive back on the archives of Enniswood and the Columbus Metro Parks and check out old Megan Fleischer and her How to Prune Roses video.
Yeah,
it was really good.
Or if you're local, just get yourself over to Enniswood any weekday and say, I'd like to see Megan Fleischer.
Yeah.
I'd like her to come out here and show me how to prune these roses. They have a very nice rose garden.
Every single listener in Central Ohio needs to do that, please and thank you. Megan would love that.
She's going to be happy.
So Woody's where to cut, what not to prune. We kind of went over that. If you have any other questions on that, please hit out because, pruning could be a whole episode on its own. But just knowing kind of like now's the time to do it, unless, of course, it's something that is getting ready to flower on last year's flower buds. So another thing to think about this time of the year while you're out working in the gardens is maybe dividing some things. So hostas may need divided or trying to think of, I just drew a blank.
Dianthus.
Yeah, dianthus
is a big one that needs divided. Daylilies, black-eyed Susan.
Yeah, echinacea, anything like that may need divided. Like right now is a good time to do it, unless, of course, it's something that's finna, that's getting ready to bloom, that's finna bloom. So I'm thinking like Pulmonaria, Brunera, Dicentra, or your Pulsatilla, like your bleeding hearts, your pasque flower, some of the things that are like super early bloomers. Maybe hold off a minute on that stuff. Let them flower, let them do their thing, and then when they're done flowering and they're done doing their thing, maybe think about that like in the fall, or if it's still early enough in the spring, I suppose you could divide them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wait until we get too close to summer, though, because then it's just, it's going to be a little bit more stress on the plant. But, your hostas and things like that, seed them, any of that, just right now's the time to do it. Get out there with your shovel and just hack away at it, divide it up, and
move them around. You'll have more plants. And like Matt mentioned, it's not going to hurt some of these early bloomers to divide them now. But what it might do is make their bloom process non-existent.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Just let them bloom and then think about that. And then there's some other special ones. Like I know iris likes to be divided in the fall. If you try to divide them in the spring, they'll probably do fine, but you're going to throw off their blooming and they're not going to bloom as well. Same with peonies. So,
oh yeah, I forgot about peonies and iris. So we even talked about that.
Yeah. Those are two that you'd want to wait till the fall, but most stuff you can divide right now.
Yeah.
If it's starting to, take up a large footprint in your garden or die out in the center. Ornamental grasses, some of them, the ones that are more spreading, they would love that. And this is a good time to do it while things are still dormant or relatively so.
Yeah. I like it. Get out there and divide your perennials while you're out there working in the garden. So you get done pruning some stuff. Now you've got some stuff divided. You got your leaves all blown out. Things are starting to look pretty good. But the next step in a lot of people's process is mulch. And mulch. So if you are a mulcher and you feel the need to mulch every single year, hold off on mulching a little bit and wait for those soil temperatures to warm up some. Don't fake that soil out and think that it's warmer than it actually is out by putting a nice 2-inch thick layer of warm decomposing mulch on top of it. Wait for the temperatures to warm up some before you put the mulch down. But, now's a good time to get everything ready before that.
Yeah, I would say more like late spring for your mulch. The soils have warmed up. There's still moisture in the ground. So when you mulch, you're going to lock in some of that moisture. It's just a tad early right now.
Yeah, a little early. Now, with that being said, of course, you'll see people out mulching, and that's okay. As a matter of fact, I have contractors out mulching some of our big park areas in Dublin. We have a very tight schedule, I suppose, on things that have to be mulched from the time spring hits, like now, until Memorial Day weekend. And there just isn't enough time to get it all done between now and Memorial Day weekend, when the Memorial Golf Tournament is in Dublin. So I've got people out mulching right now, but that's just because, not necessarily because I want it to be that way, but it just kind of has to be that way.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And, you know, certain landscapes can probably handle mulching better than others. You know, tree rings are probably fine to do at this point. But another thing is, if you wait a little longer till your plants start to grow, you're probably not going to use as much mulch, because I know that's my goal when I'm having a garden, that a couple years down the line, it's hardly going to need any mulch because there's hardly any soil you're going to see.
yeah.
Now, if you try to mulch right now,
You're seeing all kinds of soil.
it's just bare soil. So you're mulching everything. But then once that stuff grows up a little bit, you might have a little pockets or right around the front, just to get some, you know, color down, and just to get, you know, just everything looks fresh and you get nice crisp edges. But, you know, you might want to wait a little to save little money on the amount of mulch you're going to use. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned edging, which is something that you and I didn't discuss before this, but, you know, now would be a good time to get out and edge while the ground's still soft. Get out there and put a nice deep edge on your gardens. If you're into that, it just cleans the garden up, makes it look nice. And it also helps keep some of that non-ornamental turf grass from creeping into your lawn. So now would be the time to get out and do a little edging in the garden before you throw that mulch down. And with mulch, you know, when it is time to mulch, I would say look for something hardwood. Get a good quality mulch. Don't get some garbage mulch. Get something that's going to break down on you and is going to not take 85 years to do so. So
this is purely opinion based right here, what I'm about to say. But unless you're mulching a Taco Bell, stay away from the red stuff.
Yeah, red stuff's, I mean, I know some people use like cedar or cypress because it's supposed to be a kind of a natural insect
That's
repellent.
not even what I'm referring to when
I know
say
you're
red,
talking
like
red
dyed
dyed.
red mulch.
Yeah.
Like it works if you live in like New Mexico or something, or if you've got like a garden full of yucca, but it does.
Yeah, just get a good. If you want to do dyed black, perfect. Dyed brown, whatever.
Dyed black
Natural
is fine.
brown,
I
that's fine.
love a good brown, natural brown look.
But just a nice, maybe triple processed hardwood mulch. So we won't get too much into mulch, but
That's another episode.
yeah. All right, so you got your garden cleaned up. You got stuff cut back, leaves blown out, stuff put in your bags, out by the curb or in your compost pile. You're waiting on the mulch. You got everything mulched.
Or perhaps you
edged.
burned it.
Or burned it, yeah. You got everything edged. You're waiting for your mulch.
Let me pause you there.
Okay, pause me here.
I had one thing to add about edging. I love a good edging,
Yeah, me too.
but I hate
the process?
the process of edging.
Yeah, if you're doing it manually by hand, it kind of sucks. If you have we have a bed shaper at work, one of those little Wonder bed shapers, makes it so much quicker. Especially like if you take the time to do it once and you get a really good edge, then I know for me personally, it's just like at my house here, it's just every couple of mowings I get out with the string trimmer and just kind of touch the edge up with the string trimmer. But other than that,
I like the part where you dive in with the spade, but I hate picking up.
that's why you delegate people to do it behind you.
I know, but I'm talking about at home.
Oh yeah, well, thankfully for you, you have children, and
Yeah, I guess
Amelia is not too far from an age where you can say, "Hey, you're going to come out here and help Dad."
Yeah, you know what? I don't know why I hadn't thought about that, but hey, Megan, we're gonna edge the garden really well this year, and Amelia's gonna do the dirty work.
I mean, kick a little money her way or something. Like, hey, I'll pay you
Robux.
I'll pay you some Robux.
It's all about the Robux.
I'll pay you some Robux to come out here and
Yeah.
help me edge the garden. I don't know.
All right, that's good. I like that. Thank you.
So
Thank you.
yeah, free well, not necessarily free, but you got some
Yeah.
child labor there. Yeah. So
Legal.
legal child labor. That's
Legal.
great. So, all right. So we got all of that stuff done now. Pre-emergent would be something that you could put on now. And well, now would be the time to do it. You want to do this before a lot of your weed seeds and things start to germinate. I know that there's some stuff out there right now, but you know, if you haven't put it down yet, then you're just going to have to live with some of that, some of those early weeds. But putting down your pre-emergent, commonly called preen.
So just to back up a little, a pre-emergent herbicide is a chemical that will essentially kill and depress the seeds from germinating in your garden. So if it's a granular one, which is one of the most common, it just needs a little moisture to activate it, and it creates a barrier to the weed seeds. So it doesn't do anything for plants that are perennial. So it won't kill your perennial plants. It won't kill any weeds that come back year after year from the roots, but it will kill those plants that reseed.
So, with that being said, you need to be careful about how you use pre-emergence. Like we've talked about, the most common is preen that you can buy in about any big box store or garden center or something along the lines. Preen's kind of the name that everybody's most familiar with. There's the ones that we use that are a little bit more commercial, like Freehand, or what's the one that the chemical that we have used in the past a lot? SureGuard. So those are a little bit more commercial, a little bit more expensive. You have a bigger window of how soon it needs to rain in order to get this chemical broke down into the soil. But you need to be careful about if you have echinacea in your garden and you want those echinacea seeds to kind of spread about, or penstemon, or any of these self-seeding perennials. You don't want to use preen around it because it's not selective in that it knows the difference between an echinacea and a weed. It's seed to seed.
So basically, if you've got, I hate to use the word messy because that's not what it is, but if you've got a more naturalistic garden where you want things to seed around, then forget about it. Don't use this chemical. You're going to have to just deal with the annual weeds and pull those.
Yeah, for sure. But the same time you're out using the pre-emergent, now would be a good time also to put some fertilizer down in your garden. If you fertilize, I don't really fertilize in my garden. I fertilize my annuals, but I don't really fertilize my perennials. I don't know. I may try it sometime. I have put down like a biochar type thing in the garden before, but yeah, right now would be also a good time to kind of give those perennials a little extra boost of energy coming into the spring. So just some sort of an all-purpose, like a 14 or 16.
And it depends what you're dealing with. Maybe you're specifically fertilizing for your azaleas or something.
Yeah,
you don't have the right soil. Then things can get a little different. But in general, if you're growing a perennial garden with lots of natives, fertilizer isn't necessary.
Yeah,
in general. So
yeah, absolutely. Anything you want to add to the fertilizer and pre-emergent stuff?
No, but another thing that this time is great for is to cull or remove unwanted seedlings. So I recently, just last weekend, cut back my garden, and what I revealed was a lot of little seedlings from plants that are kind of thugs in my garden.
You like the mother plant.
I like
not
the mother plants, but not all the little seedlings that are jumping all over the place. So 2 examples in my garden are rattlesnake master, globe thistle, and then I'll add allium to that too. And I noticed seedlings everywhere. Well, this is a great time to pluck those out because they're not well rooted. They're small. You can see them really easily because once that garden starts to grow, they're just going to hide in there. Also, you pull those things out. If you can get roots intact, you can give those to people.
Heck yeah.
Like rattlesnake master is very aggressive in the garden, but it's a plant that a lot of people love. Aringia yuccifolium. It's a native plant, a native prairie plant, and that's one of those ones I could pull out, pot up, and I could find plenty of people who would take it off my hands.
Plus, the name's cool. Rattlesnake Masters.
Absolutely.
Like, and Eryngium yuccifolium. Like, I don't know.
Everything about it.
Everything's really cool. Yeah, so allium, the Eryngium, penstemon is another one that I've seen spread around a lot. And believe it or not, like what I've noticed is the Caryopteris that I have at work, like it's seeding itself around all over the place.
Yeah, same
So,
at home. Same.
yeah.
Ours seeds in our gravel patio.
The Caryopteris does, yeah.
But it's easy to see and pull out. Especially, well, the seedlings aren't up yet for that this time of year. But and what's nice about the penstemon you mentioned is we have the purple leaf variety, and it comes true to seed. So it's really easy to spot those purple seedlings.
Yeah.
Those purple leaf seedlings in the garden. So
awesome.
yeah, this is a time. So you're weeding. Maybe you're pulling weeds, but you're also pulling
good perennials.
Good perennials that you just don't want in that spot.
Yeah.
And by definition, they're
It's
a weed.
Yep.
It's a weed, right?
It's a weed for sure.
So
cool, man. I mean, that kind of wraps up. You know, we can do, I'll just do a really quick kind of like review or overcap over all of that stuff for spring cleanup. So get out and cut back perennials when you're ready. If you're the native naturalistic type, maybe wait a little bit. If you don't have time to wait, now is fine. Get out, cut that stuff back, rake it up, blow it up, get all your leaves and stuff out, put it on the compost, burn it, put it out by the street, whatever you've got to do. You can use mowers, you can use gas or electric pruning shears, you can use hand pruners and hand shears. Taking a look at your woodies, so your different shrubs and things that may need pruned back now, but make sure that you're pruning the right ones back and not stuff that's going to bloom soon on wood from last year, on the flower buds from last year.
you should always be taking a look at your woodies.
Always look at your woody. Can't stress that enough. Divide and move perennials that are ready for that. If it's going to be flowering soon, maybe hold off a bit and hit those up in the fall. Things would be like peonies, iris, pulsatilla, Bernera, pulmonaria, things like that. Wait a little bit for the mulch, but getting your garden ready for mulch is great. So after everything's cleaned up, putting a good edge on it, some fertilizer down, some pre-emergent down, and get ready for that mulch. And while you're weeding and cutting stuff back, culling out your unwanted seedlings, like Tim had just talked about, globe thistle, allium, penstemon, things like that. So yeah, you got anything you want to add onto that list?
I'll get back to edging. You only need to do edging if you want to. You don't have to do the edging.
You don't have to. No.
That's just going to have to be a decision you make with Matt's microphone disconnected from the table, so now he's holding it.
Just keep talking.
That's it. That's all I had.
That's all you had. Okay. Well, before I end the episode, before we wrap this up, episode 1, God, I'm so happy to be back doing this. I just wanted to thank Valerie Bergdahl Costello, Sam's mom, because she was so kind this past winter to make us these super nice, comfortable, soft Shrubby Buddies sweatshirts for you and I and our spouses. And I know Taylor wears hers often. I've worn mine several times. So Valerie, thank you so much. I hope that you're listening and I hope you hear this.
And I have a quick story. We take our push mower, our walk behind, to Ohio State every year to their mower clinic.
Yeah.
And it probably doesn't need to be done, but we like supporting, where we graduated from in the College of Food, Agriculture, and Environmental Sciences at Ohio State. And the students there do a mower clinic where you bring in your mower on a Thursday, you pick it up the following Monday. It's like $40 or $50. They've changed your spark plug, sharpened your blades, cleaned your mower, changed the oil.
And air filter?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. But they do all that for you. They unload it. They load it back up. It's a fantastic thing. But when Megan was at the desk getting her ticket number, the young lady said, "Shrubby Buddies, that's interesting," because Megan was wearing her sweatshirt. And she was like, "Well, yeah, I'm in this, and my husband's a horticulture, or not my husband, my boyfriend's a horticulture major, and we listen to a lot of podcasts, so we can't wait to get listening. So
Heck yeah.
the sweatshirt, got us a couple new listeners.
Yeah, so new listener, if you're the lady behind the counter, thank you for listening, and thank you for asking Megan about the sweatshirt. So
yeah, I love repping my Shrubby Buddies swag.
yeah,
So
me too.
And hopefully in the near future we're going to have some swag available for you all to purchase. So we're working on it. Like we talked about, we're working on a new studio, we're working on video, we're working on merch, swag, we're working on well, I'll just stop there.
Leave it at
we're
that.
working on a lot of new things. Yeah, I don't want to get in over our heads, but
yeah.
we're really excited for the rest of this season to unfold, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this today. I know maybe we're a little out of practice and a little unpolished, but I think that'll come each week. We'll get a little better and better.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen quicker than it did last season.
Oh, for sure. I'm scared to go back and listen to
season 1, episode 1.
Yeah, April showers bring April flowers, because I bet it's quite a bit different. I love that episode, but
yeah, we won't.
Yeah. I can't do it. You can do it for me though, if listeners, you could do that for us. So hey, hit us up. We need more people in our inbox and our DMs.
Yeah, we've gotten some DMs, but we need more people in the DMs. So slide into those DMs. We would love it. But anyways, like Tim said, hopefully things will get polished up on our end. We'll be a little bit more fun, charismatic, and funny, but we're both a little nervous about diving into this today. So anyway, so that kind of wraps up season 2, episode 1. And I guess we'll see you guys, or see you. We won't see you next week, but we'll be back at this. We'll be back at this next week. So please follow along.
Okay. We thank you for listening. We love you harder.
+2. Bye-bye.